Hello everyone! In early October 2025, within the peaceful neighborhood of Westwood Highlands, a home once filled with the laughter of a Vietnamese-American family had turned into a silent memorial flowers, white candles, and an atmosphere of profound grief. A tragedy had unfolded quietly without a cry for help, leaving everyone unable to comprehend what had happened. When police entered the house, they were met with a scene that stunned the entire community. 4 members of the same family had lost their lives. What had actually taken place inside a home that once appeared full of happiness? Was this the act of a violent intruder, or the result of something planned from within? Today's story is one of the most heartbreaking cases ever recorded in San Francisco, a tragic intersection of love, crisis, and despair that shook the city to its core. Without further delay, as we retrace the events of this case and uncover the troubling signs hidden behind the family's final messages. As always, all information in today's video has been researched and compiled by our team from multiple sources. If you notice any errors or details that need correction, please leave a comment so we can update them. Before diving into the details, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss other gripping cases on Vietnamese case files. Thank you for your support. On the morning of the 8th of October 2025, the San Francisco Police Department received a call from a man named Robert Ochiltree, requesting a welfare check at the home of his younger brother, Thomas Ochiltree, located at 930 Monterey Boulevard. That afternoon, 2 patrol officers went to the residence and knocked, but no one responded. A growing sense of unease made Robert unable to sit still. Determined to find answers, he borrowed a pair of pliers, broke the small window pane on the door, reached in, and unlocked it. As the door swung open, a heavy, eerie stillness washed over him. Stepping cautiously inside, Robert was confronted with a scene that would haunt him forever. His brother's family lay unresponsive. Panicked, he screamed for help and dialed 911, begging officers to return immediately this time to investigate a catastrophic incident. But why had Robert suddenly decided to check on his brother's family? Had something happened earlier that hinted at impending danger? In fact, for nearly a week, Robert had been unable to contact Thomas. On Monday afternoon, October 6th, he stopped by Thomas's home to make sure everything was all right. This time, his sister-in-law, Paula Truong, answered the door, but her demeanor was unusual. She stepped outside onto the porch, closing the door behind her, never inviting him in as she normally would. She briefly explained that Thomas was away at a golf tournament in Monterey. Paula added that the lack of contact was because Thomas had lost his phone. The explanation sounded reasonable, but her distant behavior and the tightly shut curtains behind her planted a seed of suspicion in Robert's mind. The next day, his concern deepened drastically when he received a distressed message from Paula. In a text sent the evening of October 7, she urgently pleaded for help, saying Thomas was not himself and that she and the children were terrified. The short message left Robert shaken and deeply worried. Why was Paula suddenly so afraid? Was Thomas experiencing a crisis or exhibiting threatening behavior? Not wanting to delay another moment, Robert immediately contacted the San Francisco Police Department the following morning. Tragically, Robert himself would become the first person to witness the devastating scene inside the home. When investigators and paramedics arrived, they immediately recognized the seriousness and unusual nature of the case. Thomas Ochiltree and his 2 daughters were found on the bed in the master bedroom. Notably, the bodies of the 2 young girls had been carefully covered with blankets, as if someone had gently tucked them in after they had already passed. The room was tidy, with no signs of struggle. However, upon closer examination, investigators noticed swelling and minor bleeding around Thomas's head. One of the girls had faint pink foam around her mouth, a detail that immediately alarmed investigators, as it can indicate impaired breathing or possible ingestion of a harmful substance. The situation became even more troubling when officers followed the trail to the garage and discovered the 4th victim, Paula Truong, found suspended in the center of the garage. The once peaceful home was now filled with an overwhelming sense of tragedy. Initial observations showed no signs of forced entry. All doors were locked, valuable belongings remained untouched, and no clear weapon was found. With Paula discovered under such unusual circumstances, investigators began to consider the possibility that this was a murder-suicide involving the mother. As soon as the case was assigned, The homicide detail secured the entire house and deployed crime scene technicians to collect evidence. Every corner of the residence was examined for traces of toxins or medication. The investigators' top priority was determining the cause of death for the 3 victims in the bedroom, including whether they had been harmed and the timeline of their deaths. The San Francisco Medical Examiner's Office quickly took custody of the remains for autopsy, including toxicology tests on blood and stomach content samples. Although initial autopsy findings had not yet been released, investigators noted several important signs at the scene. The pink foam around Mackenzie's mouth suggested she may have consumed or been given some kind of substance before she died. Meanwhile, the bruising on Thomas's head indicated he may have suffered physical impact. Alongside the forensic work, detectives began interviewing witnesses and related individuals. Among them, Robert Ochiltree Thomas's older brother became the most critical witness. From Robert's account, it appeared Paula had been hiding something when she refused to let him enter the house on Monday afternoon. Her distressed text message the following night claiming Thomas was not himself and that she and the children were frightened made everything even more confusing. When police arrived on Wednesday, Thomas had already passed, showing no signs of resistance or harm toward anyone else. Paula's decision to text Robert for help suddenly became a puzzling clue. Was she hesitating before carrying out her actions, or was it an attempt to shift blame onto her husband? Police also interviewed neighbors for details about the family's recent behavior. Many said the Ochiltree family had become unusually withdrawn in recent months, rarely going outside or interacting with the neighborhood as they once did. One detail especially caught their attention. The trash bin in front of the Ochiltree home had remained on the curb all week instead of being brought in after Monday's collection day, a small but telling sign that something inside the home had gone wrong. Normally, either Thomas or Paula would bring the trash bin back into the yard the same day. But that week, by Wednesday, the bin was still sitting untouched on the curb. This detail suggested something may have gone wrong as early as Monday or even the weekend before. While reviewing clues, investigators also noticed another striking detail. The Ochiltree family had a small dog named Mango, which they regularly took to a nearby pet salon for grooming and ear dyeing. Strangely, Mango was nowhere to be found at the scene. This raised the question, did Paula take the dog somewhere safe before the tragedy? If true, it suggested she had planned ahead, calm enough to move the pet to safety before carrying out her intentions. As news of the case spread, the public and the media quickly speculated about the true cause of the tragedy. Reporters from the San Francisco Chronicle and the Standard began digging through public records and interviewing friends, coworkers, and neighbors of the Ochiltrees. Before long, they uncovered alarming financial troubles hidden behind the facade of a stable, middle-class family. Court and property records showed that the house at 930 Monterey Boulevard, where the tragedy occurred, had actually been foreclosed a year earlier due to defaulting on a $2.24 million USD loan. It turned out that in March 2022, Thomas and Paula had mortgaged their home to borrow a large sum likely to cover business investments. But within less than a year, by late 2022, they had become unable to make payments. By February 2024, the bank filed a lawsuit and moved to auction the property. In October of the same year, the house was purchased by a financial company for approximately $2.05 million USD. Even so, the Ochiltrees continued living in the home. Possibly due to pending legal procedures, they were allowed to stay temporarily while awaiting enforcement. For many people, living in a house no longer legally theirs would create tremendous psychological pressure, shame, fear of eviction, and constant uncertainty. On top of that, in January 2025, Paula Trong was sued by Discover Bank for more than $17,000 in unpaid credit card debt. 3 months later, the court ruled that she must pay the full amount plus fees, raising the total to more than $18,000. Digging deeper, investigators found that Paula Trong was the one who had signed most of the loans in business ventures. She had once been an ambitious entrepreneur buying an old auto shop to turn it into Zentrum Motors, opening a Vietnamese iced coffee chain called Orbit Coffee, then purchasing a grocery store and converting it into Star Spirits, a liquor shop. Unfortunately, her business ventures collapsed, one after another in 2023, leaving behind enormous personal debt, bank debt, and tax debt. Records showed her company owed the state of California more than $47,000 in unpaid sales taxes. At this point, the financial motive became increasingly clear. The family was drowning in crisis, emotionally and financially. Mounting debts, a foreclosed home, and a bleak future may have pushed the couple to a breaking point. Because Paula was the primary borrower, the financial burden rested heaviest on her shoulders. During review, police also ruled out other theories, such as a collective suicide or an outside intruder. Every remaining clue pointed back to Paula. From the evidence available, investigators believed it was highly likely Paula had planned to end the lives of her family in a moment of overwhelming despair. She may have convinced herself that letting her husband and children go peacefully with her was preferable to facing bankruptcy, debt, and humiliation. Even so, while waiting for final forensic results, police maintained caution, referring to the case only as a suspicious multiple death incident. However, two internal sources told the press that investigators were leaning strongly toward the scenario in which the mother harmed her family before ending her own life. While a key part of the mystery now seemed clearer, the investigation was far from over. Detectives still needed to reconstruct the precise timeline of the final days and analyze Paula's mental state to fully understand this tragic case. So, before the tragedy unfolded, what kind of life did this family of four once have? Let's explore their story to understand the deeper layers behind this complex case. Thomas Ochiltree, 57, was an American painter and graphic designer. He worked on packaging designs for wine and craft beer brands, and he ran his own company, Ochiltree Design, Branding, and Packaging. For years, Thomas and his wife built several small businesses in the Bay Area, ranging from an auto repair shop to a cafe chain and a liquor store. Friends and colleagues described him as creative, gentle, and deeply devoted to his family. One example of that love came in 2013, when Thomas designed a wine label and named it after his daughter, a subtle way of weaving family affection into his creative work. On his professional LinkedIn page, Thomas proudly referred to Paula Trung as his business partner, showing that he saw her not only as his spouse, but also as a trusted collaborator in every project. As a father, Thomas Ochiltree was known for being tender, attentive, and devoted to his children. The couple had two daughters, Alexandra Ochiltree, 12, and Mackenzie Ochiltree, 9. Both were born and raised in San Francisco. Alexandra was a 7th grader at A.P. Giannini Middle School, and Mackenzie was in 4th grade at Sunset Elementary. Alexandra and Mackenzie were described as polite, quiet, and well-mannered, always greeting neighbors when they passed by. On the day of the tragedy, both girls were unexpectedly absent from school, which surprised their teachers because they were known for good attendance. The girl's mother, Paula Thi Trong, 53, was later identified as the one who caused the tragedy, before losing her own life as well. Paula was born in Vietnam during wartime and immigrated to the United States as a child. She married Thomas Ochiltree in 2006 San Francisco. Their marriage between a Vietnamese woman and an American man seemed happy and harmonious for many years. Paula was both a caring mother and a capable business partner. The two were often seen side by side, inseparable in work and in life. Friends still remember the Ochiltrees attending school events, farmers markets, and community festivals together. Former coworkers described Paula Trung as intelligent, decisive, and resilient. She was unafraid to dive into new business ventures, from automotive services to food and beverage to retail. In many of their joint projects, Paula was the visionary, the operator, and the leader. Interviews from past news articles show that Paula took great pride in her Vietnamese heritage. When she launched Orbit Coffee in 2019, she told Sprudge magazine that she wanted to create a place where people could enjoy Vietnamese iced coffee, a drink tied to her childhood. It was also a place where she wanted her daughters to experience the flavors of their roots. Paula was sociable and active in the business community, so dynamic that she once ran multiple businesses at the same time. Orbit Coffee, the Star Spirits liquor shop, and several rental properties. To many, she was the model of a modern woman, independent, strong, and ambitious. But good fortune did not last. After the COVID-19 pandemic, the local economy declined. Many small businesses in San Francisco were forced to close, and Paula's entire small business empire collapsed as well. In 2023, Paula was forced to shut down the entire Orbit coffee chain, followed soon after by the failure of Star Spirits. Mounting loans grew far beyond her ability to repay. Once a respected entrepreneur, she fell into a severe financial crisis. The house was foreclosed, income dried up, and overwhelming debt left her emotionally and physically exhausted. It was likely this relentless series of setbacks that chipped away at Paula's stability, slowly setting the stage for the tragedy no one expected. Former associates recalled that in recent years, Paula gradually cut off contact with almost everyone. She stopped paying for accounting services and had not communicated with her tax specialist for nearly 5 years. These signs suggested she may have been slipping into a state of depression, despair, and shame over her financial collapse. Such negative thoughts may have accumulated over a long period and escalated in early October 2025. Investigators widely accepted the theory that Paula harmed her husband first, believing he was the only person capable of stopping her plan. Based on injuries found on Thomas's head, investigators concluded Paula may have used a hard object during a moment when he was unprepared, or she may have incapacitated him before the assault occurred. After her husband's death, Paula was left with her 2 young daughters. This is believed to be the most emotionally conflicted stage for her. Several signs indicated she hesitated for days before carrying out further actions. On Monday, October 6, both Alexandra and Mackenzie were absent from school. Investigators believe Paula may have given her children strong sedatives, leaving them unconscious. By the night of October 7, she appeared to have reached a devastating decision. Afterward, she gently covered her daughters with blankets, a heartbreaking gesture suggesting the profound emotional turmoil of a mother who had lost all hope. Once her husband and children were gone, Paula seemed to prepare for her own end. According to police assessment, her final action occurred midday on Wednesday, October 8th, only hours before Robert returned with officers. The entire tragedy is believed to have unfolded over roughly 48 hours, starting with Thomas, then the 2 children, before Paula's own death. Everything appeared meticulously arranged, as if she viewed it as a distorted escape from the family's crushing financial collapse. From a criminal psychology standpoint, the case shares characteristics with incidents in which a person in severe depression harms loved ones before ending their own life. In Paula's distorted state of mind, she may have believed that taking her children with her was a merciful alternative to leaving them facing poverty, the loss of both parents, and overwhelming debt. But to the outside world, it remains a horrific crime that took the lives of 3 innocent people. In this case, no criminal trial would ever take place because both the victims and the person responsible had passed away. Instead, the responsibility for establishing the truth fell entirely on investigators and, most importantly, the San Francisco Medical Examiner's Office through its official forensic findings. In this city, incidents involving a person harming family members before ending their own life are typically brought before a coroner's inquest to determine the sequence of events and the cause of each death, especially when children are involved. For Thomas's relatives, their stance was clear. They viewed Thomas and the 2 girls as completely innocent victims and placed full responsibility on Paula. Thus, the case closed without a courtroom trial. But the moral judgment from the public was harsh. Few felt any sympathy for Paula Truong, regardless of the desperation she may have faced. The tragedy deeply shocked the local community and received extensive media coverage across the United States. News reports spoke with sorrow and disbelief about a family of 4 who lost their lives inside their own home. In the days that followed, bouquets of fresh flowers and small offerings of fruit with incense sticks reflecting Vietnamese memorial traditions began appearing in front of the Ochiltree home in the heart of San Francisco. The San Francisco Standard and the San Francisco Chronicle later analyzed the root cause of the tragedy, the family's overwhelming financial collapse. They highlighted a painful truth. Although the Ochiltrees lived in an affluent neighborhood and appeared well off, behind closed doors was a mountain of debt and business failures. This illustrated the invisible face of poverty and financial strain that can exist even in the most glamorous neighborhoods. It also raised broader social questions. How excessive pressure to appear successful and the fear of losing face can break a person, especially within some immigrant communities where achievement is valued and failure is deeply stigmatized. And you, what does this story make you think about when it comes to how people cope with crisis? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Before you go, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Vietnamese Case Files so we can continue uncovering the hidden truths behind the world's most shocking crimes. Thank you, and see you in the next episode.